Board Member Keys.
Here.
Board Member Bieneme.
Here.
Board Member Desulme.
Here.
Chairman Joseph.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Okay, let's proceed with pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Need a motion to approve the approval for the last minute?
Move the minutes.
Motion made by
Second?
Chairman,
I
Made by-
made the motion.
Board Member Galvin, and seconded by Chairman Joseph. All in favor?
Aye.
Item passes 5-0.
Okay, we have agenda item 1 that has to do with beautification grant request from Saavedra LLC. How do we want to proceed on that?
Short presentation by staff. Yes. This is for the address 12625 Northeast 14th Avenue. The applicant actually applied for the grant in the amount of $15,000. This is not a match grant. This is just a business grant that we'll be providing to provide some facade improvements and facial improvements to the building. She's already done a tremendous amount of work at the place. And it came before the advisory board. It was unanimously voted to approve. The business is an apparel business where they do apparel, clothing, polo shirts, and such. Staff is recommended to approve the grant.
The applicant is also here in case you have any additional questions.
Move approval of the item.
Second.
Motion made by Board Member Galvin, seconded by Board Member Bieneme. All in favor?
Aye.
Item passes 5-0.
Update on facade grant for fiscal year 2012. Starfire Enterprises LLC, Cosmic Cones Ice Cream.
Yes.
That's part A, and part B is, do we have people from El Kiosco here?
Yes, we have the attorney from El Kiosco and Cosmic Homes, which
So
are
we'll-
both here today.
So we'll do with Starfire, Cosmic Cones first.
Cosmic Homes, basically, we gave them a grant back in 2008 in the amount of $80,000. So far, they've collected $60,000 for the work that has been completed at the site. The project has stalled and hasn't moved on. We've been in contact with Starfire Enterprises, and right now, the board unanimously voted to close out the grant at the current time after the 3 years have passed from since they did receive this grant. And basically, we were saying the applicant can come back and try to reapply for a grant. This is one of the last items that comes from the previous regime. We're trying to close out all of these items and move forward. That's pretty much it. The business isn't open as of yet, and we just, want to move on as staff. If you would like to hear from the applicant, they are here, the attorney's here as well. I don't know if Rasha has anything you want to add.
In addition to that, our state statute requires that we can't keep moving funds, carrying funds over past 3 years without a proper justification. And this is since 2008. It's been over, I can do the math, like 7 years. The balance is $20,000. I would recommend we just close out the project. I think Mr. Zelkowitz concurs, and we can just move on. But this one and the other applicants are 2 pending projects that we've been carrying forward for a while now. And I would like us to be in compliance moving forward.
Just to add for the record, the CRA and Starfire Enterprises entered into a grant agreement dated November 29th, 2008. And pursuant to that agreement, they had a year and 90 days to complete the project. That would have put them approximately requiring completion by March of 2010. I know that they were working with CRA staff, the prior administration, on the project for a number of years past 2010. I was requested in May of 2013 to send a default letter to the grantee, which I did. Basically, as was described previously, there was an $80,000 grant approved. 60,000 of the 80,000 was dispersed by the CRA staff for improvements that were authorized by the grant agreement. The project did stall. The default letter was based basically on the fact that they did not complete the project within the time frame within the agreement. There was no allegations of misapplication of the funds or misuse of the funds. It was just simply that they could not complete the project. They do have tenants at the project. In fact, one of the tenants received a grant from the CRA. That was the PI Beauty Express. My understanding is that grant was paid. That grantee completed their project. They are open for business at the site, which is a small strip mall. So we're here tonight. There's $20,000 left on the grant. You have a number of options you could take with respect to the project. Pursuant to the default letter, the CRA's position is this grant agreement's been terminated at this point. You can agree to just move forward with the grant agreement being terminated, not pay the $20,000. You can move ahead and pay the $20,000 and complete the grant. You could also file a lawsuit to recover the $60,000 which was paid. We've discussed that with staff. My recommendation would be, without getting into any sort of litigation strategy or anything at this meeting, that litigation is an expensive proposition, and the outcome is always uncertain. I can tell you that the CRA has, in the past, has not sued any grantees of these business grants in the past, regardless of whether they've complied or not complied. So those are sort of your three options. I know that Mr. Wolland is here. He'd like to make a presentation as well. If you have any questions on the grant agreement or the history with the default letter, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Through the executive director, one thing to keep in mind, we are facing the sunset of the CRA. We are trying to go for an extension. So if whatever you decide, we want to try to have the problem rectified by the end of the fiscal year, so we can move forward with our application.
Mr. Chairman?
Excuse me. What are our requirements before we actually disburse any money? Do we need to see commencement of the actual project? And
the grant agreement is actually has a number of different requirements when monies are dispersed. Lien waivers have to be provided. The contract with the contractor has to be shown. The work has to be certified as completed. The lien waivers have to be provided. And then we cut a check and fund the grant amounts. You'll see in the staff report that there were funding amounts that were done in the past. And my understanding from the file is that at the time that those funds were dispersed, that the requirements of the grant agreement had been met.
So the fund was disbursed without the project being even started, right?
2/3 of the funds were dispersed. They got paid in quarters. So 3/4 of the funds as they passed certain phases. So they did the permitting, they bought the impact windows and doors, they bought the granite, and they started doing. So you can see some of the improvements that were done. The smaller, I guess the balance would be attributed to the rest of the work that needed to be done to open up the business, and that's where it stalled.
Mr. Chair,
Good.
can you please, I know this is right up on the corner of 124th or 123rd and 7th. My question is it the ice cream shop or the entire shopping street? Because the whole thing is, it's a mess. But that particular one, I know it's been ongoing. So is it the particular ice cream shop we talking about?
It's the ice cream shop next to the beauty supply.
Yeah, next to the
Yes.
in the Chinese place.
And
all up
it's
in
just
there.
one bay in that plaza. It's
Okay.
the second bay from the beauty supply or the beauty shop.
So does the owner own the ice cream shop, which is across from the laundromat, up to the entire strip, or just?
The owner owns
okay.
a complete strip
Got it.
there.
Okay.
And for the CRA actually gave 2 grants. One for the beauty supplies,
and then the
beauty
ice
store,
cream.
and the other one is for the ice cream shop. The grant in question is the grant pertaining to the ice cream shop.
Yeah, but did the funding go to the landlord or to the tenant?
For the
landlord.
beauty
To the
supply,
landlord.
it went to the
Went to the tenant.
tenant.
Correct.
And that's what was a little bit controversial at the time. It went to the tenant, because normally all of our grants have gone to the landlord. So for the for the beauty supply, it went strictly to the tenant. This, I believe, is for the landlord
Yes.
who owns multiple spots, but this is just about the ice cream store.
Location.
Okay. I believe the attorney wants to be heard.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, staff. I'm Frank Woland. My office is at 12865 West Dixie Highway, and I represent Starfire Enterprises, LC, and the principal of Starfire, Jane Whittle, is here with me, as is our assistant, Anna Watson, who was kind enough to take some of these photographs. And we have left a package with all of you, and I appreciate that you have taken the time to look through it, or certainly we're here to talk about it and answer any questions that you might have about it. We have a slightly different viewpoint than that of staff, because we feel that this agreement, because it's relating to the property as described in the folio, is not just for the one bay, it's not just for the one store. It's a facade improvement grant, and we don't own the whole shopping center, the whole strip store. We own only the 5 bays that are now occupied by 3 businesses, and that's one folio number. And if you look at the agreement, that's the one folio number that is referenced in the agreement, which consists of 2 bays, which are the window place. You look right here. The window and glass store occupies 2 bays. The beauty parlor occupies 2 bays. And then 1 bay, the long bay, is Cosmic Cones, where, which is the ice cream establishment. It was once a Carvel. And this is looking at it from the north, this is the view of the Cosmic Cones, which shows all of the improvements which have been done by Starfire, all the facade improvements. This was a facade improvement grant. So they've spent $123,000 to do the impact windows, the granite, the doors, the
123, that's in addition to the 60 that was acquired.
Yes, exactly, because so the total amount that was to be spent was $180,000, more or less.
171,400.
I'm sorry, 171,400. And you can see the stainless steel details in the granite, and there's actually some more stainless steel that we intend to install, but because we've had problems with theft, we've had our refrigeration equipment stolen and other things, we don't want to put that stainless steel on the site until things are open and running. But be that as it may, we believe that we have complied with the terms of the grant, which requires that we're talking about the entire space. Like I say, I do disagree with staff about that issue. We have leased over 50% of the space because we've leased 4 out of the 5 bays, and the leases are attached. And then the last bay was also leased to, Cosmic Cones. But Cosmic Cones has not opened, all right? Starfire is a first-time applicant. We paid the previous tenant's delinquent water bill of almost $6,000. We've met the other requirements, and we believe that going through it step by step, that because we have spent all of the money we were supposed to spend, and we've documented and furnished that to previous staff, and your staff has it, as staff has indicated, there's no misapplication of funds, There's no misuse of funds. My client put up a substantial amount of money and rehabilitated, because these places were empty before. And the old Window Mart went out of business and moved up the road. You know, I don't even think it's in the city anymore. But I can tell you that they made the improvements. They, you know, fixed up this property to the extent it accomplished what the city was looking to accomplish, which is the facade improvement. We've done what was expected of us. And Mayor, when you say what are the requirements, once again, we've spent the money, we did the facade improvements. There's nothing left to fix on the facade, which is what this is. This isn't a small business grant, it's a facade improvement grant, and it requires leases, which we have delivered, and it requires performance by way of making improvements to the facade, which we have done. That's the glass, that's the windows, that's the doors, that's the granite. It's a very, and if any of you would have visited it and looked inside, we've had neon work done inside, and it's going to be, at some point, a very nice place. We're not asking to prolong this.
Let me ask you one thing.
We would like to finish it.
Mr. Attorney, let me ask you one thing. The picture that I'm looking at now, was this completion made within the time that was allotted for this to be done?
So,
Like back in 2010?
Walk up to the microphone, state your name. State your name.
I'm Laura Whittle. Yes, all of the improvements were made on the building.
Within
Everything
the-
is complete.
Within the 1 year and 3 months time that
Yeah,
was?
as a matter of fact, in your package, there's a final certificate from the city, a final sign-off on the building permit in 2012.
In 2012.
May I ask a question?
That's Exhibit A is the sign-off on the building permit from
This,
2012.
this picture, it says storefront before Beauty Express, storefront after. Is that the beauty shop or is that the Cosmic Cones?
That is the beauty shop.
So what these pictures are is the $80,000 grant we gave to the beauty shop. That's gone. they
That was
received
a
the money.
business
for the beauty
grant. That was not a facade grant.
That was a business, she only did interior work, she did not.
That was for interior work for the tenant. That was
So this-
not the facade owned by the landlord.
Do you have a picture of the facade of the entire shopping center? I think you
Yes.
had them there.
They have a big one.
No, but the after picture is for the ice cream shop, right?
No, no,
No.
that's
So
right.
it's,
They just
Part of
took
it
off
is the
the
ice
bar.
cream shop, and part of it is
Goes over
the
with this
beauty
flag.
shop.
This is the beauty shop, and this is the ice cream store.
Exactly, that's correct. And you can see the whole thing here. This is the window place, this is the beauty shop, this is the ice cream place. As they all exist now, you know, and as I say, we have submitted all of the receipts and all the documentation to show we've done the work, we've spent the money, and we would like to receive the $20,000, have the grants closed and be done.
Mr. Chairman,
go ahead.
may I ask a question? Putting aside the issue of when the work was completed, whether it was within the year and 3 months, I'm being handed building permits from 2012. Putting all that aside, was I correct in hearing you said that the grantee spent $123,000?
Yes.
Above what the city paid. We actually spent, our original contract was 170, and we had extras. We did the fancy cap, the stainless steel. That was over and above what we were supposed to do on the grant.
Because my understanding from the grant agreement, there's a scope of work attached for $171,000.
Right, that was the original contract.
So you're saying you spent more than 171?
I spent more than 171.
All right, because the issue, of course, is that this is a 50% match. Unlike the grant that you just approved, which is
Right,
a
but-
straight 100% grant, the grantee has to show that they spent at least $160,000 to receive $80,000.
That's right. That's
So
what was done.
I had heard 120,000. That's why I think 60 was consistent. But you're saying you spent 120 plus the 60?
I spent 183. If you have the sheet, do you have the sheet? That's what we spent today.
What sheet is that?
This,
Was it in your
Yeah, it's in
package?
So
exhibit.
80,000 is less than half the
Yeah.
requirement.
It's way less.
Half the
It's
limit.
only
Do we have invoices and
That's
and-
Exhibit
and
2.
receipts?
Exhibit 2 in the packet.
this is this. Exhibit 2 in your packet.
Invoices and receipts?
Yeah, but you-
Mr. Chair, I have a question. And,
that's
All right,
what she's
so-
been reimbursed.
and Mr. Willen,
That's what I put in, so.
Right.
Mr. Willen, I have a question for you. You spent about $170,000 on the project, right?
Yes,
And you
Including the city's money, yes.
including the city's money.
Yes.
correct.
You get a grant only for the
For,
ice cream.
no.
No.
It was for 50% of the project.
If you
Up to
look
a
at the
certain
grant
amount,
agreement, it's
but I
got,
couldn't
Ali-
get-
They are correct.
for the whole property.
The grant is to the owner, and it has a scope of work which exceeds just the ice cream shop. It's for demolition of
Okay.
storefront doors, windows,
agree with you.
impact storefront glass, exterior granite, interior finish work, paint the exterior of the building. So when the grant was contemplated, and I was
That's
here
it.
at the time, it was
The
for
grant was for the
for the building,
ice cream, for the entire building or for the ice cream
entire
shop only?
building.
It's for the entire building.
The grant.
And in answer to your question, Councilman DeSalme, whether it was just the ice cream shop or the whole thing, it's the whole thing.
The
No,
grant was for the ice cream
No, this is
shop
conflicting.
or for the whole thing? Mr. Alim Ghani.
The original scope is here.
As read in the original scope, the materials and the plans and permits, this is what I was reading into the record. And I'll read directly from our building department. The permits was pulled by Cosmic Cones, and the permit was issued. The date received was 12/7/2010. The facade, when it comes to the painting, it's for the complete outside of the structure. Everything in this grant reflects only the ice cream shop. The permitted drawings that were submitted to my building department or the City of North Miami Building Department is for the ice cream shop, including all the
For the whole building,
ice
the
cream.
part they're on.
That's correct.
Okay, that's mean they receive a grant of $80,000 for the ice cream shop only,
Correct.
right?
And painting the complete.
Okay,
And painting the exterior of the complete plaza.
okay. The 170 plus thousand that they spent it on the entire building.
Yes.
Is that correct?
I didn't hear your question.
The 170,000 plus that you spent on the project is for the entire building, right?
What we spent was for the entire shopping center.
Okay,
Yes,
since
you're
you
correct.
had,
Shopping center.
since
I'm
you,
not the owner of the ice cream, even though
We've got to get the comments on the record with the microphone if you can.
yeah. What I'm trying to say, you receive a grant for $80,000 for the ice cream shop. That's what you said.
That's it.
Well, I think what's happening here is we disagree with staff because we believe and we think that reading the grant agreement correctly reflects that it is for the whole property. Why would staff saying we had to paint the whole property? Staff said we have to paint the whole property.
You have
So
to
that's
paint.
part,
Okay,
right. So
okay.
with that,
The
that
painting is a
included
part of.
more than the
Okay.
ice cream shop. It
Okay, it's
included
the ice cream
the
shop
whole
and,
property.
and the painting of the
And
whole shop.
the property, right, and the property that is described in the grant agreement is the folio for these three spaces, these three
I understand that.
businesses.
But you spent about 170,000 for
That's
the entire
correct.
building.
Including the ice cream store, yes.
Did you spend $80,000 on the ice cream shop by himself and the painting of the whole facade? Because it's
We
supposed to be a
spent-
matching fund.
I understand. If you include the 60,000 that the city gave us, we spent 183,000. If you deduct the 60,000, then we've spent 123,000.
For the whole thing.
Is that a fair statement?
Where's the matching one for the ice cream shop. That's why I'm trying to figure it out. You give me invoice for
It
everything.
didn't say that in the grant agreement, Councilman. The agreement, when you read the agreement itself, and it's in our packet, it doesn't say that.
I can
Mr.
clarify. The reason why it has all three folios there is because the owner, Starfire Enterprises, signed the grant agreement. So we always include the entire property. There's a scope of work, there's an estimate from a contractor that was part of the application, which is the work that was supposed to be done. So if the work that's part of this contract with Mr. Dentico Contracting is identical to what's in the contract, the grant agreement, if you're telling us on the record that this amount in what you handed out is for this work and no other work whatsoever, then yes, I would say that you spent the money. But if you did work other than what's in here with that money, then that's not covered by the grant.
That's what it is. That's mean those invoices, we didn't need those invoices for the rest of the project. We need invoice for the ice cream shop plus the painting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're presenting 50% of the work. I don't know if there is if I'm right or.
Councilman, the grant was not to the tenant, Cosmic. It was to the landlord to make the facade improvements. We have made the facade improvements. We have painted the whole shopping center. We have spent of our money $123,000, and of the city's money $60,000.
Through the chair,
Those
Mr.
are
Chairman.
facts.
Sir, let me ask you a question, ma'am. Obviously, the project is just sitting there since 2008. What is it that you want to do, or what's the plan, and when is an expected date of something? Because it's just been sitting there. Let's just say you do get the 20 or you don't get the 20. What is the plan?
I'm going to answer your question.
Yes.
When I started this grant, I had 0 tenants. 0. It was 100% empty. I accomplished what I thought you wanted to accomplish, which was to have everything occupied. One of the businesses is not open, but 4 out of 5 bays are open. The other one will be shortly, but I accomplished what I needed to do, which was to attract tenants to the shopping center. That was my goal and the goal of the grant.
And not only that,
Attractive, so that tenants.
What about the ice cream shop? That particular corner? Because that's a corner
Yes,
front.
they're working, that tenant is working on the space. And
So you do have a tenant?
yes, I
And-
do, and the lease
there
is
have-
in your package.
there have been and there are scheduled inspections, and there have been, like I said, if you went up and looked closely, they've done neon work on the side of the walls, and they're going there. They're not there now, but they're not going nowhere.
And they've been leasing for how long?
I'm sorry?
How long have they been leasing?
For a couple of years now. How long
What?
have they been leasing?
Cones, ice cream, yeah.
Since 2012.
And they haven't opened yet?
No, they haven't opened yet.
Do they pull a business tax receipt? Do they pay the tax?
May I ask a couple more questions? Where, with all this handout I'm looking at, where, and I'm asking our staff attorney, where does it say anywhere in this application that the grant is strictly for the Cosmic Cones as opposed to the other 3 bays? And my second question to you is, how much money did you actually spend, how much money did you actually spend on the Cosmic Cone property?
I don't have it broken apart for you because I did it as one.
Well, that would matter if in fact a grant was given strictly to Cosmic Cones,
It
then
wasn't given to, it was
well, that's
written-
my question to staff. Let staff
was-
answer that.
Staff has acknowledged that we painted the whole property.
That's not what I'm asking. I want someone to tell me, I don't really see an application. I'm looking at the
grant
agreement.
agreement's in here. It's
I-
to start
I'm-
from.
The agreement is
s-
for a scope of work.
A scope of work.
No, the grant agreement.
Excuse me, the agreement is for a scope of work. There's an exhibit attached to the grant agreement that has a scope of work.
Which exhibit is that? Because I'm
That is
looking.
Exhibit C.
Exhibits. I don't have an Exhibit C
Exhibit 11.
on my agreement.
It's the grant.
We have Exhibit B.
It wasn't, I don't believe it was included in the package that was,
If-
that was circulated by the grantee.
Well, can you read it for us, Mr. Attorney? Can
Yeah,
you
I'm
read
gonna hand it up to you.
Okay, because if it's given just to Cosmocones, then we have to deal with it differently. If it's given to the whole shopping center, I feel you've met your obligation. We're not giving you more than 50%. So we
Do
need
you
to
mind
look at
handing
this.
that to, Board Member Keys so she can see it's a scope of work.
The paragraph
there's a
that I'm
con-
looking at about scope of work, section 3, does not reference an exhibit.
Sure it does.
I'm looking at it, and I don't
Your
see it.
handout incorrectly had the first page of the grant agreement attached to it. You had the memorandum of grant agreement attached to the grant agreement. And you do
Okay.
not have the first page of the grant agreement. I'd be
Okay.
happy to show it to you. It does reference the Exhibit C. And there is an application, and there is a contract with James Dentico Contracting. So as long as that work was done, and that work was paid for.
That work
aside-
was done.
This work was
As-
done on this Exhibit C? Yes. I mean, there's $171,400 worth of work. It talks about survey, demolition of storefront doors, windows. It doesn't give specific address unless.
But that's what was done.
Well, what's the address of Cosmocones? Is that 12370?
Yes,
So this is for one address. It's not for the entire shopping center.
that is the entire shopping.
The entire shopping center uses that address?
Yeah.
So what's the address of the beauty shop? 12370?
No, 120.
123 or something.
12350,
You do have different folio numbers.
right.
There are different
No,
addresses.
No, there's different addresses.
So this
one
scope of
folio.
work is for this address. So it would be nice to know how much money you spent on this address.
Well, I think it's accurate to say that the great preponderance of the money was spent on the Cosmic Cone location. The rest of it was the money spent painting and fixing up the rest of the shopping center.
So-
But in the rest of the shopping center, they didn't do replacement of windows with high impact glass, replacement of doors, they didn't do the kind of serious work
It
that they did
appears-
on the one business.
I mean, if you want to take the time, it appears that is the granite work only on the ice cream
Yes,
store?
the
So you
granite
have-
work is only on the ice cream work.
So you have a $38,000 bill for granite. You've got impact windows, 4 areas, 5 doors, frames, 94,000. It looks like you did do that. I mean, it looks
Yes,
like-
they did all of it.
And the survey plans was just for that store, not for,
No, it was for the entire shopping.
The survey was for the whole shopping center.
so this application is somewhat defective in itself because it encompasses more than just the ice cream store.
It was,
Well, when you say it's defective, we didn't
It's not-
prepare.
I'm not saying you made
Prepare
it
it,
defective.
yeah.
I'm saying it's somewhat inaccurate because you're mixing apples and oranges here.
Maybe if we said it's inexact.
That's fine.
Okay.
Inaccurate.
Well, I would,
Inexact.
I tried not to use the word, I always try not to use that word fault.
Don't argue
Because
because it's not you
I
who
got it.
prepared it. So I'm just saying that, we've got a grant here and we're asking for work to be done on one address, but you also have a scope of work here that's being done on the rest of the store. So I personally think they've met the requirements, have done more than, unless the attorney thinks we're violating some rules.
Well,
I think you have spent enough money. You spent more than the 50%. We're not giving you more than 80. So I think based on that Exhibit C, it would be hard to
Mr. Chairman,
really do
again,
much different.
putting aside the timing issues again, and that's just really a technical type issue. My recommendation would be if they can provide us with the receipts and the payments that show what they paid, other than just this one sheet, that they've met and paid for all that work that's on the scope, that's required by the grant agreement, and satisfies staff that they spent it, and they get a certificate of occupancy as required by the grant agreement, then they should be entitled to the $20,000.
And to actually correct all the open permit requirements as well.
Question, Through the chair, we don't have actual receipts. We just have this.
Yeah, that was.
No,
submitted
there will be actual receipts for
Okay.
the payments that were made.
Okay.
This was provided to staff already.
Oh, okay.
Not for the balance, but for the 60,000 it was dispersed.
those receipts, Mr. Manager?
No.
For the balance, no receipts.
Can we, would you be willing to continue this item to bring us all the receipts and see that you've spent this and,
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, if that's the pleasure.
I would
of the
like to
board
see,
and-
in
Through the
addition
chair.
to the receipts, I would like to see proof of payment as well.
Right, and through the chair, we would like to get a timeline. This grant, as I said, we need to close this grant. The Miami-Dade County is looking at everything on our grants, and we are trying to clean up everything on our books right now. If we are audited, I need to get these things cleaned up. I need a timeline from the applicant, a clear-cut timeline with permit requirements attached to the payment. I need to see permits closed out before, as the executive director, I sign off on these payments.
Can you give us some directions?
It's
No,
it's
no,
up
you-
to the
you-
applicant.
No, you, the
Yeah.
manager. I mean, can you
The
give us an
permit-
idea
the-
as to what the timeline could be?
The permit is
They-
closed.
They could get, we could, allow them up to 30 days, or the most we could give them is up to 60. Because I would not like this project to continue beyond the fiscal year.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, if it suits you, what we would ask you to do then is to provide your approval conditioned on us showing proof of payment to staff and closing out any open permits, and that if we do that, then staff is authorized to complete giving us the money, and if we don't, we'll come back, or whatever you want to do.
What about a CO?
But that way, we don't have to come back. That way, you can just have
What about
staff
the
close
CO?
it.
But another quick question, Mr. Chair.
The attorney mentioned something. What about what?
Certificate of occupancy.
Certificate of occupancy with the closeouts.
They're gonna review.
It's in the agreement.
It's not in.
Well,
It is.
okay,
Would they have to
Board
get a
member
new one?
Keys has
No.
the agreement.
A certificate of occupancy is you saying that the property is available for somebody to occupy. It's not the tenant. The tenant would have to go get a certificate of use. You made the repairs. It is part of the agreement that a certificate of occupancy. That means that it's done, it's ready.
Yeah, the certificate of occupancy is done by the tenant. It's not done by the landlord. It's a combined.
Yeah, the tenant pull a permit and they get all the inspection and, right? No?
Yes, that's correct. If the building department goes out there and do all the
We will-
inspections,
Yeah.
we will get it in a timely fashion. Hence
we-
the reason why I'm asking for all the permits in our building departments to be closed and a certificate of occupancy
or a
issued,
certificate of use.
or certificate of
Okay.
use.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Is 60 days good or 30? Okay.
Well, when is the next meeting?
July
Every
and
month.
then
15th.
September.
Okay, so if we have a problem, you'll see us. Otherwise, we'll live within your deadline. Thank you.
So the deadline will be
60 days, and if we can do that, then we don't need to come back. And if so, and if not, then, we understand there are grave consequences. We'll either come back and tell you why we didn't do what we were supposed to do, or that we can't, and, you'll make your final decision. But I'd like to, in the interest of closing this out and not having to come here again, I'd like to give them the opportunity to show staff, this is the money we've spent, and, these are the permits that are now closed, here's a certificate of use or a CO. And if we can do that within 60 days, the grant's completed, the money is dispersed, finished. If we can't, we'll deal with that. But at least we have a potential for conclusion now.
Mr. Chairman, a question for staff.
Go ahead.
60 days from now falls in the middle of the planned council recess. The next meeting after that would be the first Tuesday of September.
September.
Excuse me, second Tuesday of September. Do we run into any
No,
issues with?
second
August,
Tuesday of
August.
August.
No.
September.
September.
What do you
This is
mean?
hiatus.
All right, I'm gonna shut up right now. 60 days from now is the end of August.
From now, okay.
Our next meeting after that will be,
September, okay.
somebody please fill me in.
Second Tuesday
Okay,
in
thank you.
September
September.
8th.
Second Tuesday of September, September 8th. We have issues with Miami-Dade County and closing these things out. That's why this is an issue. We need to move it along because they need to reapprove our CRA. If we potentially defer any action on this until September 8th, do we run into any problems with Miami-Dade County?
Yes, potentially, because we have to have our budget into Miami-Dade County by that point. My recommendation would be to give the grantee until September 8th to either come up with all the receipts and their CO or their CU, and if they can't, then the $20,000 is waived at that
Mr.
point.
Mayor?
I mean, I don't want to have to come back to the board again for another decision.
Here's a
We're,
question.
we're okay with that.
Well, Ms.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah. Oh, why don't we keep it to 60 days? That way, you're coming back to staff at the end of August, so you're not coming back on the day of our meeting, and you can't do the report. So let's do the 60 days, and then give staff the extra time to work out the report, and say we have a problem, or do something on September. I don't want to wait till the day of our meeting to.
We're okay with
Yeah,
that,
sure.
Ms. Keys. However, hopefully we're not going to sit around. We'll do it as soon as we can. If we don't have it done, we'll tell you why. But if we do have it done, then it doesn't need to come back before you, except for staff to say, they did what they said they'd do. We've dispersed the money. This grant is closed. Thank you very much.
Okay, Ms. Clerk, can you recap the final,
Nobody's made a motion yet.
huh?
Was there a motion made?
I would make a motion that we give approval, subject to the applicant getting all the required documents, which would be all permits closed, proof of all bills being paid that you've said, and the certificate of use being issued on or before 60 days from today. If that's done, then staff can go ahead and close it out. If not, then there'll be a report
Or
why
certificate of occupancy.
it won't be approved.
Okay.
Okay.
Second.
So I have a motion by Councilwoman Keys, seconded by, Board Member Keys, and seconded by Board Member Desame for the applicant to show proof of payment, closing out the open permit. Also have a certificate of use or certificate of occupancy, and the deadline is 60 days, which is September 8th.
Did I leave
bring
anything
back
out,
to the-
Mr. Manager?
From today.
60 days
Mr.
from
Director,
today.
did I leave anything out? Okay.
Which is August,
60 days.
which is August 22nd
20.
to bring back to staff before the next CRA board meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishes to oppose a no or nay? Item 2A passes 5-0.
Item
Thank
2B.
you very much.
Thank you. 2B?
I'm going to stay.
By the way, what is the ice cream shop going to be next? Do you know? Is it going to be ice cream again?
Well, you might even find a slice of pizza in the back.
I'll go with pizza. Either one.
El Kiosco?
Item 2B, El Kiosco. Similar situation with El Kiosco. However, the balance is only $6,147. There's been some issues with staff has taken some of the responsibility on some of the issues with this. We had some mistakes in our building department with this item. The advisory committee did unanimously vote to give the applicant until September 30th.
Can you give us a little chronology as to when we started and what happened? And
The date of the grant is originally December 2011. It was 2 phases of the project. The first phase has been complete. Phase 2, however, had problems with DERM and regulatory work. The applicant has been active. We've been in constant contact with the applicant and moving forward. In August of 2012, they did receive their reimbursement for the first phase of the amount of $8,853. Again, the balance is $6,147. Some of their paperwork that was turned into the city was misplaced, and we actually are working with the staff to replace the documents. We're working with the applicant to replace the documents. And we are recommended to give them until
What document was that?
The calculations for the awnings, apparently staff of the building department misplaced it. We met with Mr. Balsero and we discussed waiving some of the fees so that he can afford to have them redone. It's just Mr. Balsero has had several other delays. And again, the issue here is we've been carrying this grant for a while. The advisory committee recommended that we work with them until the end of the fiscal year, which is September 30th. And if at that time he cannot complete the project, we can close it out and the board can choose to waive and allow him to come back and reapply when he's ready.
Council?
Thank you, members of the board. Frank Woland on behalf of El Kiosco, where I have breakfast every morning and frequently lunch. And so many of you may also be familiar with the fine food and the fact that they do support our city in many ways. It's kind of a fixture on West Dixie Highway, and you know, the police are there and everybody's always there. It's a very social, friendly place. So the first part, which was the doors and the windows and the improvements, that was all done, and it was done by a contractor and done expeditiously and fine. My client found that for the rear awning, for the rear seating area, which will be very nice to be able to eat outside in the back, you can eat outside in the back now, but you're in the sun. This building was built in 1954. It's, I think, way past being grandfathered in. I don't think you could build it today under any set of circumstances. He had to go to Durham because he had to go to Durham. If any of you are aware of what's involved in going through the county process, it is a very long, a very arduous process, and Raudel Balserio, the owner of Kiosco, is not, it's like kind of he's doing it on his own, and he's getting help as he can find it. The load calculations that were done by the engineer, unfortunately, we can't just get another set because that poor gentleman is at death's door and not in the engineer business again, so we've had to find another engineer to do the calculations, and whatever is left to do, we're going to do it with all due haste. Mr. Balsero has made a bunch of other improvements, even in the last 60 days to, you know, make the place more handicapped accessible, changed the, you know, he's had to change the washrooms and the seating and the entrances and the ramps, and he's done a lot of work, and frankly, he can't even afford to do that. He had to sell, you know, his car that he's had for years, and it's, you know, he's a real nice gentleman, and staff is working with us, and the advisory board is working with us, and the advisory board, after hearing everything, has recommended that you give him, you know, till the end of the grant year to complete it. Not only that, but if we're not able to waive the 5 years, so we can do whatever we need to do to finish it. This is a local business that serves the city and depends on the city, and it's, you know, got, you know, if I told you how many sandwiches he's got to make that kind of money, it's a lot.
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, if there are no objections from staff, I'd move approval of this item.
What is being asked?
Provide an additional 5,000 and change for them to finish out the project that they've already begun.
Finish it before September 30th.
Sure, if you want to attach some of the same conditions as the last one to make sure there's a time frame by which they can close it out, I'm cool with that.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor by Board Member Galvin, seconded by Chairman Joseph, to move for approval for the 5,000 plus, to move ahead with that. Well, I need the amount. $6,147 $6,147 due before September 30th to bring to staff. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishes to record a nay? Item 2B passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Thank you, board members. Thank you, staff. Have a nice evening, everyone.
All right.
You too.
Agenda item number 3, RMA update.
Yes, as we all are aware, we hired RMA to work on our redevelopment plan update and to help us negotiate with the county to extend the life of the CRA. We had a timeline in place. We have Kevin Crowder from RMA, who's here to do a brief presentation on an update. But it will be a more detailed presentation given on July 8th in this council chambers, which will include yourself, the CRA board, and the advisory board. It'll be analysis of potential P3 projects, land use and zoning, and financing for the projects that and strategies that we will be looking to move forward with to extend the life of the CRA, and also to go over the tax increment financing structure. Kevin will give us a brief overview of what they've been working on and how we're going to move forward.
Great. Thank you. Excuse me. Nice to see you all. You do have, I believe it may be the last page of your agenda, has the agenda for the workshop that will take place on July 8th. And this is really where we'll take the work that we've done on the plan update that's the basis of the extension of the CRA, get your input, revise that into a final draft document that then we'll bring back out for a community workshop, final conversations with Miami-Dade County on what that final plan looks like, bringing the final plan back to you for final approval in September, and then moving into the county process through the rest of the year. On July 8th, what we're going to talk about in these 4 different areas, a little more detail. So we've done the existing conditions update, we've done the demographic update, the market analysis, we've done the market demand estimates, as well as the market potential projections for development and redevelopment. Identified the community resources. We're still going through, but have done a lot of the work looking at what are the targeted industries, what are the hidden industries, what are the things that you have that you can capitalize on, and we can really build up as elements of the extended CRA program. What are the strategies that are going to be needed to implement the plan that extends your CRA, and how does that link even to land use and regulation, brand and image, community enhancement, housing opportunities? What are those opportunities based on what's in the plan update to leverage? What are the other programs that maybe you can tap into, whether they're grant programs, incentive programs, things that you can use to help drive the investment in the CRA? And also investment attraction. The P3 projects that have been previously talked about, Tri-Rail Station, what are those opportunities to create those catalysts that can then attract additional investment? The next piece will be the analysis of the potential public-private partnership projects, and there's several that have been identified here in this area. We've looked at those, and we've looked at a couple of others, including what a potential public-private partnership for a Tri-Rail Coastal Link station could look like. And we've looked at a couple of different things. We've looked at the current comprehensive plan and zoning and what can physically be built on those sites and the different potential sites. And how does that connect to the market demand and the market potential? And then secondly, for each of those, we've done an analysis of financial feasibility, seeing to look at each of those, how attractive would each of those projects be to a potential private sector partner in a public-private partnership? And if not, is there opportunity for the CRA to make them attractive? And so we'll go over those with you, and then both between now and then and after, as we get your input on each of those different public-private partnership scenarios, doing more of what we call feasibility testing. This is conversations with, we had some conversations with property owners, those will continue. It's conversations with developers, it's conversations with real estate brokers, logic testing and testing the feasibility in the marketplace of the different P3 project concepts. And then we'll also talk with you about what are the different process options that you have as a CRA and the city to move forward a public-private partnership opportunity or opportunities. The next piece will be to look at capital investment. And this is where we want to look. We've got a list, and we've got identified capital projects, more than $10 million of which need to be funded through the extension of the CRA. What are those other capital improvement projects that you see as important to the continuance of the CRA? Both specific capital improvement projects or even just themes. You know, it can be generic themes about things that would be capital improvements that would enhance the viability, the aesthetics, the activity in the CRA. And then fourth, we'll get into the TIF analysis. As you move forward, especially with the county, a lot of the discussion is going to be over what is the TIF structure moving forward for the CRA, and how does that look? East side, west side, you're all familiar with how the CRA is currently funded. How does it become funded moving forward beyond 2016, and for what term? And so that's kind of an overview of what we'll be talking about on the 8th. We'll have some information we'll be getting out to you in advance, and then we'll have some specifics that we'll really want to get your input before we finalize the document to make it ready to go for some community conversation. Any questions?
Do you have any more comments? Questions from the dais? So we see you.
Yeah, on July 8th, is that going to be the only thing on our agenda, or?
It
That
is-
sounds
it
like
is
it's
not a
lengthy
CRA
stuff,
meeting.
and with only 90 minutes.
Well, it is not a CRA meeting, it's a Wednesday. It's a Wednesday from 5:30 to 7:30. That's why we had sent it in advance to make sure that the board was available.
July 8th?
Yes, it's a Wednesday, July 8th, 5:30 to 7:30.
When is
I will
July
have your
4th?
undivided
July
attention
4th is what day?
Saturday.
for 2 hours. And this is with the board and the advisory committee. This is
So
a
it's Wednesday
discussion.
after July 4th?
Yes, it's Wednesday after July 4th.
Sorry, I was just hearing July 8th and assuming you meant our next meeting, so.
We specifically made it separate to allow enough time, considering it's two bodies that'll be.
Question answered.
Great. All right.
Thank you. See you on July 8th.
Thank you.
Next item. Okay. Next item is the executive director's report. Staff has been working diligently on the residential programs. We've already started collecting monies from the grantees for the foreclosure prevention loan program. So to date, we've received $588 from 3 borrowers. They have 36 months from the time that they set up the payment plan to pay us back. I have appointments with other property owners who are coming in to start making payments. We've sent letters to the first-time home buyers. As the program guidelines indicate, we're supposed to make annual income verification, make sure they have property insurance on the property, so they've all started submitting their paperwork to us, and we're going to make sure that it's done in a timely manner so that we can make sure we're in compliance with everything else. As a result of the city approving the Y-Green program, the CRA has worked with the Y-Green administrator, and what we are proposing is that for the properties, property owners can now use the Y-Green as their cash match. Before, if they wanted to access more than the $15,000 to improve their property, they couldn't because they didn't have the ready cash available. So we've actually sent letters to property owners along West Dixie, and I'm very happy to say that we've gotten requests for meetings from property owners wanting to use the Y-Green and the CRA grant dollars to improve their property. So we're now looking at details as to what the improvements are to make sure that the investment we're making is going to be visible, and it's going to be a nice improvement along West Dixie Highway. The audit is underway. I handed to some of you the questionnaire that they needed from the board members, so I will follow up with you afterwards, but we should be done shortly, and they will be at the July 15th meeting to present their findings. I just want to point out again, they audited the last 10 months of the past staff and the first 2 months of the current staff, so if there are any management letters, please keep that in mind. You received the update from RMA. We have been working with a restaurant, a prominent restaurant, which is in the design district, interested in moving within our downtown area. It's been a very lengthy, somewhat complicated process, and we would like to bring it to you at the July meeting. We think it's a very good match for what we want to see happening in the downtown area. If everything works out and if the board approves, we hope it would be open in time for the Art Basel. It would be a great opportunity to have a
Where is it now? Can you give us a little update? I know there was
It
a
is-
question about the liquor license.
where is it now? Well, it's, right now, they need to provide the 3 quotes. I mean, because it would be an extensive renovation at the site that they've picked, they need to provide, as the guidelines require, 3 bids for everything. The seating will be for 200, 100 inside and 100 outside, with a covered awning. Their architect has presented plans and everything. It's just that right now I just need to get all the paperwork in order and the numbers in order before I present it to the board. But we're moving along very well.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question on that?
They've signed a lease already.
Have they already signed the list?
Yes.
What about the liquor license?
Well, they will apply for it, I assume, when they start doing the renovations and everything.
Because I know that there was like the determining
For them to
factor,
get
the limiting factor.
to apply for a restaurant license, as opposed to having to buy a liquor license for, let's say, $175,000, they would need to provide 4,000 square feet or 200 seating under cover.
Which they don't have.
They do if they do 100 inside and 100 outside under cover. They can get it.
Does the retractable awning, does it
It would
qualify
be
as
a
cover?
retractable cantilevered awning type thing. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, question, have you discussed this project with our attorney?
Yes.
Yes, I'm aware of the project.
And does what is being asked come within our CRA guidelines, or are we gonna have to waive our rules again?
I don't have a lot of details on the project. I know from the amount, I believe, that'll be requested, that it would exceed your current guidelines. You'd have to waive the amount.
Also,
Of the
is the
grant.
grant being requested by the tenant or the owner?
I do not know.
And also, is this property
The
not,
owner.
grant
just
has not, hasn't a grant already been given in this building?
I do not know that.
Okay, I would really like you to pass all of this in front of our attorney before it's presented to us, because I think it's not really something that our CRA is allowing. I expressed concerns on this. I'm very much in favor of this project, but I'm not sure the CRA is appropriate. And because of what we've done in the past, I want an attorney's opinion that what we're doing is not in violation or having us waive more guidelines that we've waived in the past.
It's in the building next door. Well, we did give a grant to that building, but there's a time limit, if it's within 5 years.
You look at it, you look
Yeah,
at
Starbucks, if you're talking about the Starbucks grant, that was a long time ago. Starbucks has been closed an easy 3 years, if not longer.
Mocha Cafe
Mocha.
also received a grant in that building. I would need to go back and look. The staff always, before it gets to the board, I will certainly see more detailed information. It would not come to you without me reviewing the application. Is there an application that's been submitted? Okay, then it's not complete.
we did a lot of waivers. I'm not happy with the last waivers. I spoke very harshly against it, so if we're looking to do it again, I want your opinion.
And if I can follow up on what she's saying, nobody probably was harsher on the Mocha Cafe grants than I was, probably. But this restaurant, even though it's the same owner, I think has a legitimate standing already coming from another community. It's coming up from Wynwood. This is not a new restaurant. This is somebody who's got a track record. My criticism of Mocha Cafe was more of some of their political connections and their track record of being a new restaurant. Luckily, they've shown that they can carry their own weight, but in this case, I'm a little bit more flexible maybe than Chairperson Keys, just because I know this is a known entity.
I just want legal recommendations on this.
Certainly.
Last item will be the fiscal year 15-16 budget, where on July 1st, we'll get the preliminary TIF numbers from the county, and after the July 8th workshop, where we expect to get some guidance from you. We'll draft a budget and we'll schedule individual meetings with you to see what it is that you'd like to see happen. We anticipate presenting the budget to the board for approval in September, so it can be included in the city's budget and be presented to the county in a timely manner.
Okay, that was the CRA Executive Director report?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any old business? New business?
Mr. Chair, I know we've had discussions about the CRA Advisory Board. We had an excellent quorum, a great group showed up. I just wanted to recognize the chairperson, Mike McDermott, for getting that together. And it looks like we're moving forward. It's looking real positive with the advisory board now.
Good. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Time? You mean time now? You don't have a watch? 6:48 p.m.
Thank you, Chairman.